Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond Focus TV show. I'm your host, Oni Higgins, and we have an amazing show for you tonight with Tiffany Tucker-Pryor, founder of Stop Hiding Incorporated. But first, a quick commercial break.
Beyond Focus TV allows you to discuss contemporary topics affecting the Caribbean people on both a national and local level. The show features informed guests who offer insight, debate, and evaluate various issues. Beyond Focus TV builds on the station's mission to provide useful information to the Caribbean people in New York and abroad. Beyond Focus TV, where our viewing audience can get educated, informed, and empowered.
Welcome back. You're tuned into Beyond Focus TV show. I'm your host, Oni Higgins, and I'm joined by Tiffany Tucker-Pryor. She is the founder of Stop Hiding Incorporated. Tiffany, we're so happy to have you here tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's our pleasure. We'll hop right into it. Just talk to me on what was the inspiration for Stop Hiding?
Sure. So Stop Hiding came about for me when I realized that there was more that needed to be done. So prior to Stop Hiding, I ran a nonprofit organization called Redemption. And Redemption I started when I was 19 years old, right? And Redemption started out of the fact that I realized there was something more that needed to be done in our community. And I thought to myself, what is that? What could I do then? And so from that experience, from attending South Shore High School, realizing that there was a need, I thought to myself, you know, we serve the community so well, working with over 10,000 young people. And after looking back over the years, what was the real need for young people? The real need right now is that there was this underlining missing piece where young people were hurting from sexual abuse, from child sexual abuse. And I thought to myself, how could we help them? What more could be done? And so I decided to transition Redemption, right? So
It's all about growth.
Yeah, it is growth, you know, and evolution. And so after having the opportunity to help over 10,000 young people go to college, graduate from high school, get involved in the community and leadership and become civically engaged, I thought to myself, how can we help the next generation of young people, and how can we really be able to impact the community on a larger scale? And what came to be was Stop Hiding. What I noticed is that here we are, it's not just young people, parents, you know, and how young people are being parented because people are hurting. And I realized that the cycle continues in our community. Hurt people. And that's the sad part about it. And so until we really get to the underlying factors of what's really going on in the community and making it one of those things like where people aren't ashamed to talk about it, because that's the issue. It's a taboo topic, right? So I thought, you know, let's start talking about it. Let's start making this something that people aren't afraid to talk about. And so that's how it came to be. And I got together with a group of folks, started my board, and folks were just like, yes, this is definitely a need. Let's say out of 10 people, at least 7 people have been were molested as children in some shape or form.
Especially within our community, it's not something that's often spoken about, or it's brushed over under the rug.
Yes.
And it's it's not a story that can be told a lot. So I definitely think it's important. And you mentioned that you started your first nonprofit at 19, which means that you've always been into giving back to the community. You've always been a part of the community. Just talk to me on why that's important for you.
So, you know, I grew up in the church. I grew up learning service, knowing service, understanding service. My mom was a minister. My grandfather was a minister. This is something that I've been doing all my life. So I knew service. But as far as community service and nonprofit work, that I learned by going, you know, when I was attending college. I learned that through college, realizing that at this particular juncture, there was something more that we can do, and we can do it in a more organized way. And it's important for us to give to our community in this way. And so that's how, I decided to continue down this path. So service is a big part of who I am. And so I continue to do the work.
Nice. So you mentioned service. We know that you're very heavily involved in the community. I know that Stop Hiding also works with legislators to kind of get into the legislation of child abuse. Just talk to me about that and why it's important to also incorporate the legislative, action behind that.
Sure. So I think it's very important for us to understand that government governs us, right? And I'm a big advocate for government. I work in government, right? And I understand the power of government. So working in a nonprofit is one way of doing things. Working in government is another way of doing things. But imagine if they work together. It makes a world of a difference to see the work on both ends and really having things come together in that way. And so that's the reason why I decided, even with the nonprofit arm, being able to have an extending into government is also very helpful in that way.
Nice. What would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to child sexual abuse? I know that we kind of touched on it a little bit within our community, people not feeling like they have the voice to be able to speak up or, that story not being told. But are there any misconceptions?
Sure. I think for me right now, what I would say is the silence of it. So the reason why the organization is called Stop Hiding is because people are afraid to talk about it. And being afraid to talk about it then keeps the predator alive, keeps the predator moving forward. That person is not just hurting one person, there are multiple people where this is happening. And it's really and truly unfortunate to see how the cycle continues over and over and over again. And I'm really hoping that things can change and will change, but we have to be active participants in that way. So we can't be quiet about it, And so, like I said, that's how Stop Hiding came to be. We have to reveal this. We have to talk about it more. We have to make it common practice so that there's no issue.
Yes. What needs to be done to create a safe space and make people want to be able to come out and, speak their truth or tell their stories, or if they're even witnessing it or know about it, being able to come forth and let another person be able to tell their story?
I think what's really important right now is that if a young person comes to an adult, for the adult to really take that young person seriously. I think a lot of times we put young people, we say, no, that really didn't happen, or did that really happen? And we question them and we victimize the victim. So we re-traumatize them over and over again by not actually listening to them. And I'm not saying people don't lie. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying to really listen to someone when they come and they say certain things to you. I think if you take the time to listen, it makes a world of a difference in regards to how we respond to them, in regards to how comfortable they feel speaking about it, and how we can make things, just better and easier for victims to feel comfortable. Because, victims, yes, turn into survivors eventually. But I think, honestly, they need a safe space and they need to feel safe. And they need to know that people are really going to be able to take care of them in that way in the event that they come forward. That's why a lot of people, I think, simply say nothing.
Yeah. So I think we live in an age also where there's a lot of boundaries that's set, right? And we have people setting boundaries to the point where they don't want people dumping on them, or they might be going through so much mentally where they can't handle someone else's trauma on them. So what I don't know if it's certain techniques or tools, but how does a person listen actively and listen to know that there's something going on?
I think what's important is when someone comes to you and say, listen, I have this problem, I have this issue, whatever it is, if it's something that you can't take on, in that moment, we can use Google or TikTok, as we were talking about before. And you can easily find resources. You can find a counselor to get these folks to talk with. You can, if they want to report it, because everyone's justice looks different. So that's something else that I learned in this process while starting this organization. You don't want to impose your thoughts. You just say to them, well, how can I best help you? Do you want to talk to a counselor? Do you want to go to the police? Do you want to, call the sexual abuse hotline? Do you want to call a counselor? They have so many different, counseling services now. Like, I don't know if you saw the reviews for like BetterHelp and all of these different online tools where you don't have to leave your house to get counseling anymore. It's happening virtually right there. And so counseling is coming to you in your living room, your kitchen, your bedroom, wherever you need it to be. Excuse me. So I think it's really just a matter of not pushing the person off, but really saying, listen, I think it's best for you to get the help that you need, and asking them, what do you think that would look like? And then maybe then just supporting them in that way. If they say they want to go to the police, then your last step would be then maybe just to accompany them to the police. And or if they want to make the phone call, sitting with them while they make the phone call, or telling a teacher, or or going to a parent. Sometimes they may need that support to going to the parent to speak about it, because sometimes some teens don't feel comfortable going to their parents, or maybe if they need to go to a guidance counselor. You don't really know what support you need until you're kind of like in that moment. But sometimes it's just a matter of just asking them, what do you think you want to do? And then maybe just giving them, or you can Google in that moment, what are some things that we can do?
And that's certainly important, because it's not invalidating, their experience, and it's also getting them the help they need.
Yes.
But we are going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond Focus TV show. I'm Oni Higgins. I'm here with Tiffany Tucker-Pryor. We're going to pick back up where we left right off. Tiffany, just talk to me on your voice for youth in your community. How important is it to have that voice and to be that resource?
I think that youth voice is so important, and it's something I think that we don't listen to often enough. So for me, I want to not just listen, but take into consideration what young people are saying, and then even moving further, like giving them space to always be able to speak, if that makes any sense. So it's not like a one-time deal. It's not a one-time event or a fair. I know a lot of times people have these events and they're just like, oh yeah, youth voice, let them speak, but then you never hear from them again. I don't want it to be closed. It should be an open, two-way street, something that we continue to build on, something that we can grow, and helping young people understand the need for their voice, because that's something else that's also important. I don't think that they understand their need, or they think that their voice can only be heard on social media.
That's important. I know we've been talking about social media a lot this evening. Talk to me. I think that we're seeing progression when it comes to sexual assault, sexual abuse, things like that. We have the Me Too movement. Talk to me on how does this impact everything that we have going on now, and what do you hope these movements will instill when it comes up to survivors and victims being able to speak out?
I think it's so wonderful that we have these movements. Some folks are just like, well, why now? Why does it take somebody so long to talk about it? I tell people all the time, kids are kids. They're impressionable. One, they live, hoping for better. But if there's fear instilled in them, they're not going to speak on the things that maybe are traumatizing them on a day-to-day basis. All they can do, they're just trying to live. They're just trying to be kids.
Yeah. And what age does your frontal lobe fully develop?
I can't remember. It's like 20 or something.
Or something
when
like
you're
that.
Like fully, yeah. So, and when you think about stuff like that, it's unfair for folks to want kids to be more than they are. And so for me, it's like, well, at this particular juncture, and even, if this happens to somebody, if someone is raped or something really tragic happens to a person at the age of 18, it's still hard for them to speak about it. So, I know I hear a lot of, oh, well, why would a person come out and talk about it when they're 20 and 30? Because they have the capacity to deal with it and to deal with the public backlash and all of the shame and the guilt and everything else that they felt throughout the process. When something happens to you in that vein, where, something like that, when you've been violated and something has been taken away from you that you didn't give to someone, whatever it is, it takes something literally, physically away from you. And so I think that's what people don't realize, and we don't give folks enough grace for that. Whether it be a man, a woman, like, if something was taken away from you, however it was taken away, it was taken away. You were violated. And it takes time for you to heal from that. And some people never really heal, or how they heal, how they decide to cope may not be healthy, especially if they aren't getting, going to counseling, and they aren't talking about it, and they aren't really like hashing these things out, because these things come with multiple emotions, good, bad, and indifferent. And so, and a lot of times too, the younger you are when these type of things happen, you don't really know what all these emotions mean, and what they, and how you really feel towards these different things, especially if the person who victimized you is someone that you know and love. Mm-hmm. And you don't really understand if this is the way they show love. Is this the only way to live? If this is, what I mean? Is this what people do? Is everyone doing this? Mm-hmm. You don't know. So it becomes one of those things that it's so sad, when it happens to kids. And that's the reason why I'm looking to hopefully try to prevent it as much as possible. But a lot of it, again, happens through conversation. We have to begin talking about it where it's no longer taboo to talk about it.
Absolutely. And, there's no time period on trauma.
Yeah.
There's not a time period on trauma. Trauma, it can live with you forever. You might be able to have the resources to heal from it. But it's definitely something that there's no time period on it. So with that said, what advice would you give to younger children or younger people who might be feeling lost right now, or, don't know where to turn to? What words would you have for them?
Dig deep. I understand that you may feel hurt. I understand that you may feel uncomfortable. But I think what's important is to be honest. Simply tell the truth because the truth matters. And I think that that's the part where people don't really understand. Because you have to tell the truth, and then you have to tell over and over and over again, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So sometimes people are ashamed to talk about this situation. But I can tell you, speak about it. And the more you speak about it, the more your healing will come.
Definitely speaking about it. Definitely, I think that will certainly contribute to growth and healing. And it's super important. But we'll be back. We're going to take a quick break. Hold that thought. Welcome back. I'm sitting with Tiffany, and we left off speaking about advice that you would give to your younger self. So I have a question for you. What's one thing that you would tell to your younger self? Excuse me. We left off speaking about advice that you would give to younger people, which was listening in and, speaking your truth in order to heal. So what's one thing that you would tell your younger self? My younger self,
I've learned a lot. I just turned 40, so I'm so excited.
Hey.
But I think my younger self, I would tell myself to protect myself more. And I'm not just talking about protect yourself because we're talking about sexual violence, but I'm talking about protecting yourself in terms of being more mindful about how you protect you, how you protect your space. As we mentioned before, boundaries, setting boundaries. I think my younger self, I wanted to help everybody. I wanted to quote unquote save everybody, save the world. And I was bringing people in, and I was so open. And I think that in that space also too, I learned the hard way that sometimes you can't let everybody in.
Everybody can't go to the top with you, and I think that this generation is very good at setting boundaries.
Which is good.
You see at 6:00, they're logged out. You cannot ping me. I'm not doing the extra work. I think that they're very good. Even younger siblings that I have.
Good.
Mom, this is not something that I have capacity for today, and I really admire that
with
awesome. Them, because I think that growing up, that's not something. You always want to be yes men. You always want to work. You want to work hard. You want to help everyone in the best way that you can, So I definitely think that's important.
Yeah, and I'm happy that the younger generation they're smart enough right? They've learned enough to know that. But what my advice for them, because I didn't grow up in this era, right? I'm already 40, right? So I already at that stage.
You don't have to mention it again.
Sorry. I'm just saying. So, you know, when I think of them now, though, the fact that they can set boundaries, I think that's wonderful. But I think that I think what they're missing is that they also need to be open to advice. Because I think they feel like they know so much because of the internet, because they can Google everything and TikTok and they can find information. Yes, they have a lot of information, but they don't have the experience. And the experience makes a world of a difference. And I would say the one thing that I relished off of was having my aunts, having the big mamas, having those seniors that you can go to and you can speak with and you can get some real good sound advice. Take the advice. You know, my aunt used to be like, you know, this is my foolish advice, but I would take it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things like trust, because they have the experience that we just don't have, based on the fact that they've simply lived longer. That's it.
Absolutely. I thought that you would mention that because I know before the show we kind of spoke on experience of going to college and just it's a whole different experience. So I definitely agree with you on that. I want to know, where do you hope to see your organization in the future?
You know, in the future, I'm hoping for the organization to be similar to, like, you know, where Oprah is. You know, we're trying to, you know, do big things. You know, April is a sexual violence awareness month, and we have an event every year. So I hope you guys check out, you know, our website, stophidinginc.org, and just keep abreast to all the things that we're doing. We're in planning mode right now, and I work with a team. It's not just myself. There's an executive director. Her name is Leonie Morris, as well as we have a program manager, Nikita Fung, and so they really work well to helping to make the organization. I just sit on the board now. You know, I'm just founder and president. You know, but it's a great place to be. You know, and when I think about how far I've come from starting Redemption, you know, in college, you know, and working with my mentor, and just moving from there, and all the women who've supported me over the years. You know, I'm standing on the shoulder of giants, of great people who've poured into me. And I want to continue to pour into, you know, young people in this way. So I'm hoping for the best of everything, whatever there is to come. You know, I'm also a woman of faith, so I let God lead. I pray hard. You know? Absolutely. And so wherever God sees for this to go, that's where we're going to go. I didn't know starting Redemption, I was going to, you know, work with over 10,000 young people. You know, and we were able to change the trajectory of so many young people in their lives, and I was able to mentor so many young people. Now I'm grateful for that opportunity. So now, just being able to do this differently, you know, and you know, I'm hoping to save lives.
Yeah, and you certainly are. You've been poured into, and now you're pouring into the community. Just tell me, what are some of the programs that Stop Hiding offers? Sure. Just for those at home who might not know, or maybe they want to get involved.
Sure. So right now we do a resource manual. As we're in our beginning stage, it literally just started last year. So we ran 2 programs so far. Well, we had 2 events. We're doing a lot more community conversations. So that's a big part of it, because as I mentioned to you before, we have to begin talking about it and talking about it more and more in the community where people feel comfortable, to get people to feel more comfortable talking about it. And then we also help people to connect to resources. We're not licensed therapists. That's not what we do. We're just a group of people to understand the need for more of these types of conversations, and then we connect people to resources, hoping that they can then move forward to getting the help that they need to stop the cycle of abuse. Because once you've been abused in one way, you tend to try to abuse somebody else in another way. Because if you don't get the healing that you need, if you don't get therapy, if you don't try to work through those emotions and those feelings, you end up abusing someone else in some other type of way.
Absolutely. I have to ask before we head out of here too, what's the motivation behind Stop Hiding, the name? Was it something that you automatically knew that that's what you wanted your organization to be called? Like, where did it come from?
You know, I didn't. You know, I don't know. We struggled over what the name would be. I thought to myself. So I spoke to my board. So when we were thinking about what was next for Redemption, I feel like Redemption had hit a glass ceiling. but I'm that person. So also too, the organizations are a reflection of me in terms of if I feel like we've done all we can in one area, I'm okay with saying, okay, now, let's close that chapter and let's open the book to another chapter. And so when we thought about it, I had the pleasure of speaking with a few folks. There was this detective that I used to work with at the Brooklyn District Attorney's office. And she said to me, she just said this one thing. She was just like, Tiffany, the one thing I want to do more of is helping people to understand that they have to stop hiding. They have to stop, putting the sheet or the blanket, she said, over the issue, because when you do that, it hides the predators. She said that's what made it hard. That's what made her job hard, and harder for her to be able to go out to get the information and to find the results. Because if you hide, and if you hiding because you feel ashamed, you're really hiding the person who hurt you. So unfortunately, then that person can then go and hurt somebody else, or that person can continue hurting you and others. And so then that's what continues the cycle, unfortunately. So that's how it came to be.
Absolutely. And breaking that cycle is important for growth, for prosperity, for
our
years
community.
To come. The community. Absolutely.
All of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Tiffany, it was an honor having you here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. And once again, for those of you at home, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Beyond Focus TV show. If you missed tonight, don't worry. You can catch it on Thursday at 9:30. Have a good night.
Beyond Focus TV show wants and needs your feedback. Did we blunder? Please let us know so we can improve. Was the show helpful to you? Drop us a note so we can share the success with our staff members. Is there something you think we could do better? We welcome new ideas and new approaches to old ideas. Do you have a great suggestion? Let us know and we'll work on it. If you would like to share your comments anonymously, please send us an email at info@beyondfocusmedia.com. If you want to get in touch with the executive producer directly, send him an email at gene@beyondfocusmedia.com. We really look forward to hearing from you.